This is the Hype Squad with Charli McConnell, a podcast where women can be full of themselves and brag about what they're good at. Each week, we're going to bring you conversations covering topics like motherhood, life, relationships, business, and everything in between, because anything is possible with your very own Hype Squad. What's up, ladies? Welcome back to the Hype Squad. Today we have back on Leeatra Vaughn. She's an associate broker and a property manager at Big Fish Real Estate Group. They cover Lake Martin and Lee County, Alabama. She's a mom of two, a military spouse, a beach lover, a traveler, and a real estate investor. Now, at 47, she has recently had what she's calling her midlife reinvention, and she's now helping others make their home ownership and real estate investment dreams come true. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So happy you're here. All right, so today we're going to talk all things real estate.
Okay.
Been on the podcast before. We talked about your motherhood journey, which at this point that will have already come out. And today we're going to talk more about real estate because I think that it's just a good thing for me, first of all, to learn more about. And somebody listening might be about to buy or to sell a house. And I just want to help give them some tips. And I know you know what's up.
That's right.
I was thinking before we had this conversation, and even when we had our conversation last time when we talked about doing this, I've never bought a house by myself. I've only bought it inside of my marriage with my husband. And I feel like part of me hates not knowing how to do it on my own if I ever had to. So I feel like somebody else probably feels that way too. So let's start from scratch. Like if we are buying a house,
Yes.
and we don't know shit about real estate or what the process is like, what do we need to know?
So basically, before you start the process, do a little research about, am I going to finance this property? Am I going to pay cash for this property? Because there are some things you have to do when you finance a property and some things you don't have to do if you pay cash. If you pay cash, you don't have to get an appraisal for it. If you finance, you do. So you kind of want to know how much you can afford, how much house you can afford, what your down payment needs to be. And I highly recommend talking to a local lender in the town that you want to purchase a home in.
Okay.
Before you call the realtor and start looking at homes. Because in order for you and the realtor to make a confident offer on a home that you like, you're going to want to have that pre-approval letter in your hand. And that's your golden ticket to, getting the home under contract. So number one, your lender is going to want to know, have you had the same job for the last 2 years? What's your income? What are your expenses? And they're going to calculate your debt to income ratio and let you know how much house you can afford. And so the kind of rule of thumb is, you're going to spend 20% of your salary on your yearly salary on a mortgage. That you really don't want to go above and beyond that because there's so many unpredictable factors,
Right.
In our environment, elections, stock markets, natural disasters, anything can affect the housing market.
And you don't want to be house poor, right?
Don't want to be house poor.
You can't afford
You want to be able to buy furniture for that house.
Right. You got to live in it.
Yeah, buy food to put in that refrigerator you just bought. So, like I said, you want to know what you can afford and then call the realtor. And the reason why I said call a local lender first is because they're going to know your market a lot better than some of these more national mortgage companies that you see, on TV. And they're going to give you more just one-on-one excellent customer service. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he's going to give you that number and you're going to be like, okay, so let's just say $480,000. I've been approved for $480,000. You don't really want to tell your realtor, hey, I want to look at everything that's $480,000. I want to look at some stuff that's maybe between 400 and 475,
Okay.
just so you have a little bit of wiggle room.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be at the top of your price range,
Right.
because, if you start negotiating at that top of your price range, and the sellers maybe have multiple offers and want you to go above and beyond that, well, you're already out of the game
Mm.
because you've only been approved for a
Mm-hmm.
certain amount. So, that's that's kind of why you want to do that.
So I go to the bank, I go to a local lender. I assume it doesn't matter if it's like a credit union or an actual bank.
Yeah,
Does that
you
really
want to shop
matter?
around. Yeah, banks, credit unions, mortgage brokerages, they're going to
So,
have,
okay.
you want to shop for rates.
Okay.
You do need to have, if you want to do a conventional loan, conventional mortgage, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
need 20 to 25% of your down payment.
I mean, is it safe to assume that most people need a conventional loan? What other types of loans would you
Yeah,
get?
so that's basically, it's straightforward. You can close a conventional loan in 30 days.
Okay.
It's, the easiest process,
Okay.
as far as getting a mortgage. Some of your other government sponsored loans like FHA, USDA, um, those types of loans, they are going to take longer,
Okay.
and VA loans also. So those are going to take around 45 days to 60 days to get closed, all the due diligence done,
Mm-hmm.
because the government gets involved,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're gonna be very picky about, well, how much money do you have?
Mm.
And some are going to require 0% down, some are going to require 3% down. It depends on what your credit score is. And that's another thing. If you plan on buying a home anytime soon, you want to go ahead and get your credit scores checked.
Clean your shit up.
Clean your shit up. If you've got anything below 625, 650, you're
Mm.
probably going to run into some
Okay.
roadblocks.
That's a good tip to know.
Yeah. So, it's a good idea to know where you stand
Mm-hmm. Don't get
financially.
blindsided.
Yes. But like I said, those government loans are going to take a little bit longer. Conventional loans are way easier. Just,
More money down.
more money down, but if you pay that 20%, you're not going to owe PMI, which is,
I was about to ask
yeah,
you about
which
PMI.
is
So for
mortgage
people,
interest.
okay, for people who don't understand PMI, give me a quick little snapshot of what PMI is.
So it's basically the bank getting an insurance policy on you,
Right.
making sure you're going to make those mortgage payments.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't, they're going to tap into that mortgage payment insurance that you've been paying on top of your mortgage payment.
So how much is PMI typically percentage? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't.
Okay.
Because
But I know
just
that you can refinance. The first house we ever bought, we had PMI. And then we refinanced after like a year and then got it taken off.
exactly.
And then after that, we have it. It's like you prove yourself,
That's
right?
right.
That's how PMI works. And
Right.
then you don't have to pay it necessarily.
Exactly.
So is that more of an issue with your first home purchase?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Your first home purchase. You're essentially establishing good debt.
Okay.
Home ownership, that is good debt.
Right.
Credit card debt, car debt, all that stuff is bad debt.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're buying your first home and you want to establish your credit, making those PMI payments and on top of your mortgage payment, that's
Mm-hmm.
going to get you there. But yeah, so, and especially it depends on what the value of your home is too.
Yeah.
You might get an appraisal that comes back and you've already got 20% equity
Mm-hmm.
in the house. That's unlikely,
Mm-hmm.
but it could happen. I don't know, but yeah, you want to just, all these factors need to be included in that number that you can afford.
So I want to zoom out for a second because I think this is a really important conversation because I feel like most people coming out of college or in their mid to early 20s, they're not really being taught this type of thing. Like, oh, I wasn't taught this kind of thing in school. Yes, I was taught how to balance a checkbook. I don't even know if they know how to do that now coming out of high school. But fortunately for me, Colby knew how to do all of this.
Mm-hmm.
I've never known how to do it.
Yeah.
And God forbid something ever happens to Colby. I'm like, how the fuck am I going to like know what to do with all of this
Right.
stuff? So I think I'm so excited we're having this conversation. Okay. So, all right. So we get pre approved. We
Yes.
figure out how much money we're working with.
Yes.
We understand what PMI is. We understand if we can do a down payment. And now we have found a realtor.
That's right.
We know where we want to work, like where we want to buy, all of this kind of stuff.
Yes.
So let's fast forward to we've looked at houses, we've found our dream home, we go to make an offer. Explain to me how that process works.
So this is where, you know, the reason why you hire a realtor, this is
Mm-hmm.
where they come in. So your realtor is going to pull what they call comps.
Okay.
Basically, you know, houses that are comparable to the property that you're purchasing, which is called the subject property.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to pull recent sales, what's currently listed on the market, like within a certain radius of the property you want to purchase.
Okay.
So based on, those numbers, they're going to tell you, okay, this is what I think you should offer for this house. I think this offer, is going to work because maybe they think that the price is too high, or they might think the price is too low.
Mm.
And one thing you have to understand when you're buying a home is, please don't go in it thinking, oh, I'm going to lowball the hell out of these people because I know maybe you've heard in town that they're in a distress situation, or they got to get rid of it, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to insult the seller, and you certainly don't want the realtor to insult the seller on your behalf,
Mm.
because the realtor's reputation is on the line, and you don't want to look like a fool either. You want to
Mm-hmm.
be taken seriously.
Right.
So but your realtor is going to talk you through that, and obviously there are those situations where people are like, nope, that's what I want to offer, I want you to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
you're like, okay, because if I have an agency agreement with you, I'm going to do what's in your best interest and what you ask me to do, because
Mm-hmm.
you are my client.
Mm-hmm.
We have an agency agreement together.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing for sellers. I'm going to do what's in your best interest. So, I'll ride that ride with you. But,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the type of realtor, I'm going to be blunt. I'm going to give you my realistic opinion. And some people don't like that,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I want you to know I bought my first home by myself in 2006. Since then, I have purchased and bought and sold,
Mm-hmm.
God, I don't know,
A
10,
lot.
12 properties, 15 property. I don't know.
Yeah.
I might be getting another one next week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and
You know how to do this.
I know how to do it with my husband. I know how to do it under an LLC. I know how to do it by myself.
Right.
You know,
Well, but I think that's a great perspective for you as a real estate agent. You have always been the buyer and the seller.
mhm,
You have just recently become the agent. And so you have
right,
always been on the other side of the table.
right,
And so you know how that, and it's a really great perspective for you to have because, I mean, how many realtors? I think of the one that we bought our first house with. She wasn't buying and selling her own property. She was just
right.
buying and selling other people's
And
properties.
also ask your realtor if they've ever owned a home. If
Mm-mm.
they are renting, sure, they
It's a
might
red
be.
flag, maybe.
Well,
If
mean,
they're
kind
building or
of.
something. Yeah.
If
Yes.
if they're
Context.
building a nest egg to get to that point,
Mm-hmm.
good on them. But ask them questions about, like, have you personally been through this process
Mm-hmm.
before? What?
Interview them.
Yeah, and you have every right to shop realtors, and I mean, and you want to vibe with that person too.
Yeah.
If you don't have the same kind of ideals and goals,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably not going to mesh.
Well, you're working really intimately with this person until this home is
It's a very
purchased.
emotional
Yeah.
roller coaster sometimes. And so, a lot of the times I'm wearing a counselor hat. I'm
Mhm.
wearing, maybe maybe I'm helping a single man, so I'm also giving him a woman's perspective,
Right, right.
if he's a bachelor and he's looking to attract a mate,
The
you know.
ladies will love this,
The ladies
right,
will love
right.
this.
It's helpful,
Yes,
it's
right.
helpful.
Exactly. So, I mean, I've been there. I'm going to give you my opinion from every angle.
I love that.
So, but yeah, you want to vibe with that person.
Mhm.
And, here's the thing. Home ownership creates wealth. Renting does not.
Mhm.
That is one thing you need to remember,
Yeah.
especially if you're getting into the real estate investment world.
Mhm.
Obviously you're purchasing property so other people can rent it from you.
Right.
But, it depends on what their station in life is. If it's a college student, I mean, come on,
Right, right.
I mean, so
So let's back up. Let's go. Okay, so your real estate agent's pulling the comps for where the
mhm,
house is,
yep,
and you're going to make an offer. Like
yes,
the listing price is good, the comps are good, it all stands. Then you
yep.
go to make your
Make
offer.
that offer, get that number from your realtor, discuss an earnest money deposit.
Okay.
What that usually I recommend at least 1% of the purchase price,
Okay.
because that is basically your good faith deposit that you are going to go through with this transaction.
So
Um,
what happens to the earnest money?
so it gets held in escrow
Okay.
by usually the closing attorney. A lot of agencies and brokerages have shied away from holding it
Okay.
for their sellers and buyers. We'd rather just go ahead and pass it on to the attorney's office that's
Mhm.
closing the deal. Um,
So what happens to that deposit once the sale goes through? It goes
it
towards
goes,
the
it's a
purchase.
credit towards your purchase.
Okay.
Yes. But before you get to that closing table, you are going to obviously have a due diligence period
Mhm.
where, say you go under contract, everything's accepted, your realtor has maybe negotiated some appliances for you,
Mhm.
or, I mean, everything is negotiable. If there is like a stuffed cat
Everything is for
or
sale.
everything is for
You can
sale,
buy
or you can buy
everything.
anything. You're like, oh, I really like that ugly painting on the wall,
I
but
want it.
I want it.
I want
And
it. Put it in the
that really,
paperwork.
yeah, realtor's like,
Mhm.
okay, let's write it. We'll write it in the contract.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, you know, and everything gets approved. You're going to want to get a home inspection.
Okay.
You usually within 10 days of going under contract on that
Mhm.
home, you're going to talk to your realtor. They're going to give you recommendations for a home inspector. The inspector will come, look at all your major systems, HVAC, water heater, roof, look to make sure, there's no leaks, kind of give you a plumbing, overhaul, sort of
Mhm.
look see, and make sure your dishwashers are working, all that kind of
Right.
stuff. And depending on, what comes back, say, well, the ice maker in the refrigerator doesn't work, and there's a leak under the sink, and there is a potential leak that's going to happen in the roof.
Mm.
So once you get that report back, you essentially have 48 hours to request repairs from that seller, and they have 48 hours to respond to you to let you know if they're going to make the repairs or if they're just going to tell you to kick rocks.
Mhm.
So usually, there's always going to be a meet in the middle situation. You can say, well, you know what? I don't really have time to get those things done. Say the seller is in another state
Okay.
and they don't really, know people to hire to get to do that. The realtor will go to the buyer and say, let's maybe get some quotes on these things that need to be fixed.
Mhm.
And we'll ask for that amount of money to either come off the purchase price, or, you can maybe say, just hold another check for that amount in escrow until that work gets done.
Okay.
And then, those people can get paid. Um,
So let me back up for a second. So you make an offer. they accept your offer, right? So the time frame for that can be whatever, right? They can accept an offer pretty quickly, or it could take a little
Well,
while.
normally, the realtor that writes up the offer is going to put an expiration date and
Okay.
time
Okay.
on that offer.
Okay.
And usually I do 24 hours. I think that's completely acceptable.
I mean, I would say so too. Okay, so they approve the offer and they say yes, and then you go under contract,
Yeah.
right? And then you get your
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 inspection,
inspection.
everything works out that way. Then, your loan processor is going to want to, start their underwriting process. And that can also be a very emotional
Mhm.
process, because they literally want to know about every dime you've made and spent
Mhm.
over the last maybe 3 years.
Right.
And make sure you have all that stuff ready to go.
Another reason to clean your shit up
Yes.
before you buy.
Yes, but go ahead, make sure you have all your tax returns like on a PDF file somewhere, all your
Okay.
W-2s on a PDF file, bank statements, just anything, just give it all to him and
Mhm.
say, if you have any questions, let me know. Because if they're constantly calling you and asking you for
Slows it
things,
down.
that's going to piss you off. It's
Mhm.
going to piss them off if you don't get it to them in a timely manner.
Mhm.
And everybody's just going to be angry.
Well, it slows down the whole
It
process.
does. It slows down the whole process. And then, once they get all that done, they get the appraisal. The appraisal has to come back at least at purchase price or more, in order for you to be cleared to close, essentially. So after you check all those boxes,
Mhm.
the seller is going to order a termite inspection.
Okay.
If that's all clear, you're good to go. You're good to go to the closing table, and, congrats. You've
Yeah,
you bought a
you've
house.
made it.
You
And
made it.
if it goes that easy,
Yes.
which anyone listening who has been through
I've
that,
had
like,
easy ones. I've had
well, so let me
horror
go back.
stories.
Let me ask you about the appraisal part, because if it doesn't come back, let's say you're doing a conventional loan and you're doing 20% down.
Yeah.
And let's say we're working with like your 480 number. And so what is 20% of 480? Like, I can no quick math here. We're not
Yeah.
doing that. It's a lot. It's a big check.
Yeah.
Okay, so you put down your 20, like you've got your 20% kind of allocated to it, and then your appraisal doesn't come back at list price. It comes back under list
Hmm.
price. So let's say it comes back at like 450, which that part's probably irrelevant. But what happens then? The bank says, we're only going to give you the appraisal price and you have to come up with the difference.
Here, case in point, 2 weeks ago, I had to contest an appraisal.
Okay.
Um, these folks were from Atlanta. They were buying a property at the lake.
Mm-hmm.
They were using a national lender, not a local lender. The
Mm-hmm.
national lender has a very short list of approved appraisers that they are going to use.
Mm-hmm.
They hired an appraiser that wasn't even a member of our MLS, which
Mm.
is the multiple listing site that we use to advertise the properties that are for
Right.
sale at the lake. Um, that is a red flag. Appraisers are supposed to use comps within that subject property within a mile radius of that subject property.
Okay.
She wasn't even in the same county.
Mm.
She was an hour away. She used Montgomery comps.
Oh, her comps were an hour away. Oh,
Yes.
shit. Yeah.
And, in a complete other county.
Wow.
And it came in $40,000 under purchase price. So I fought that tooth and nail,
Mm-hmm.
and I sent the lender appropriate comps.
Mm-hmm.
There had been plenty of sales in that same neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
within the last 12 months, that's a good
Yeah.
amount of time to sort of base your prices off of, stuff that's sold within the last year. And they were much, much higher than, what she
Mm-hmm.
had set forth. And then it ended up coming back 20 grand over purchase
Mm-hmm.
price. They basically sent her back out there with the appropriate comp she needed to get the job done.
Got that shit done, didn't
Right.
you?
And after I spoke with the appraiser, and she said, I actually told the lender that sought me out that I wasn't the appropriate person for the job, and they did not care.
Mm-hmm.
They just
They're just
liked
checking a box.
they're checking a box, and they're also trying to get the cheapest
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, people, you get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm.
She
Mm-hmm.
was not even in the ballpark.
Mm.
Right. So that's a lesson in that. But yeah, if it comes in under, you can contest it or you renegotiate the purchase price.
Okay.
Or the bank can, hire another appraiser, which that's going to prolong your process a little bit more. And, you don't want to have to pay for another appraisal because that comes out of your pocket
How much
along
do
with the inspection.
appraisals?
It depends on how big the house is.
Okay.
If
That's
it's
fair.
like a 1,500 square foot house, you're probably looking at 350, 400.
Okay.
But it can get up
Goes
there.
up from there.
I've paid, just for my own properties up to $1,000
Okay.
appraisal.
All right.
And you're also going to pay for that inspection, home
Mm-hmm.
inspection out of your own pocket as well. So make sure you kind of have that money set
Regardless.
aside regardless.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's all really helpful information. Okay. So hopefully anyone listening that uses this advice gets a seamless purchase. But I also
Mhm.
want to ask about selling.
Okay.
Because if you are buying your second property
Yeah.
and you need to buy your house or you need to sell your house first, what are some things that people need to know before they list their house? What
All
are the
right.
things they need to do?
Go ahead and have all of your major, um, you know, all this stuff inspected in your home, all
Okay.
your, major systems, your HVAC, your roof, all the things we talked about. If you've got scuffs on the wall from paint, if you've got stains in your carpet,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you get your house deep clean, get that carpet clean, you might have to touch up some paint, touch up the front yard,
Mm.
because I'm telling you, I have pulled up to houses that are for sale with buyers and they're like, oh, this looks like a nightmare.
I'm that
We're not even going to
person.
go in the house.
Yeah, I'm that
It could look
person.
amazing inside,
Mm-hmm.
but if you've got weeds and overgrown bushes and your yard hasn't been mowed,
Curb appeal is a
curb
lot,
appeal is a lot.
especially for buyers.
And
Yeah.
get a good pressure wash your home and your driveway and your sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Just you got to spend the money to make the money.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's a good investment. It's money spent towards your home, and money spent towards your home is always a good thing, unless your house is a money pit. And
Right. Yeah. There's opposite
right,
ends of
right,
the
right.
spectrum for sure.
So go ahead and get that stuff done. And then call a realtor, also shop around,
Hmm.
ask what their commission rate is going to be, how much, and that's basically going to be what the realtor charges you for their services.
Mm-hmm.
And ask them what they're going to do for that money.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to market my property? Are you going to respond to buyer's agents quickly
Mm-hmm.
and in a timely manner? I can't tell you how many times there's one realtor in this town does a lot of business. I don't know how.
Yeah.
He does not answer the phone. He does not answer text messages, and he does not answer emails.
Wow. Wow.
And sometimes it takes 48 hours, and he's got plenty of assistants that can
Mm-hmm.
help him, with this process, but I don't know if he's not utilizing them or whatever. But just make sure that they are going to be on the ball.
Yeah.
Are they going to stage your property? Is your house, like, does it need decluttering? More than likely, yes. You want to remove all of your personal items from view, pictures, put up any of those important documents in a safe, lock up your firearms.
Mm-hmm.
They're just,
And this is specifically before you start showing the house.
yes, before you invite people to come in and look at your
Right.
house.
Right.
But do all of these things. And if you've got a good realtor, they're going to tell you to do these things and they're going to give you a checklist about what you need
Okay.
to do.
That's great.
And then, again, they're going to pull comps,
Mm-hmm.
to get you an appropriate sales price.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to tell that realtor what you need to make on this house, which means how much cash you need from this sale in order to move forward with whatever they plan on doing with that money,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's purchasing another home or just buying an RV and traveling the world. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So, especially if you have a payoff, if you have a mortgage payoff for that property, you want to find out that number. And your realtor is going to give you a seller's net sheet that's going to be like, okay, if we do it at this sales price, you owe this much, you owe me this much,
Mm-hmm.
and you need this amount of cash. All right, this is what we need to sell the house for.
Mm.
And if we keep it in those parameters, we might be able to go like 10 grand over. So we have some wiggle room for negotiation.
Yeah.
Um, but I can get you that, we can get you to that number. We can get that amount of money in your pocket to move
Mm-hmm.
forward.
I think that that's a really good highlight, especially for what you said earlier about a real estate agent that you vibe with, because it is such an entangled relationship. You're talking about money, which stresses everyone out. You're talking about like you're committing to this process. You're having to be really vulnerable for in most
Yeah.
cases about what you need and want out of this house and what your plans are. And you have to be open and honest with them. You cannot hide things from your realtor if you want this to be a productive
Yes.
and successful like exchange.
And that leads me into the next comment. Like, full disclosure is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and not only do you have to disclose all your financial information to your lender, you don't necessarily have to do it with your realtor, but you need to let them know what your goals are and why you're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And also, please disclose to your realtor if you know there is something wrong with your home.
Mm.
Okay. If you know that there's been flooding and water
Mm-hmm.
damage, say, back in 2016, we had a pipe burst. We had, 2 inches of water in the house. We had to replace all the floors.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You need to tell your realtor that because, the potential buyer is probably going to want to mention to the inspector, hey, look out for mold, please.
Mm-hmm.
Because this has been hopefully, the seller had did, hired the right company to remediate any of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff from happening before they put in the new flooring or whatever. But
I
yeah,
think what I hear in that message is like, don't be a shitty human.
don't
Like,
don't
realize
lie.
that somebody's gonna live in this home, and there's shit that you can't prevent. You can't prevent flooding. You can,
Stuff happens.
it does.
Trees fall on top of
It
homes
really
every
does.
day.
And you have to
Yeah,
remember that you want this to be a great house for somebody else. You also don't want to ruin your reputation for selling and buying homes.
that's right.
And with your realtor, the way you just described it sounds a lot like with a lawyer. Like you need to trust this person. You need to be able to open up and give full disclosure to this person because
Yeah,
they are your advocate in this
right.
ring, right? Like they're the ones who are going to bat and fighting for you. They're the ones at the table doing the negotiation on your behalf. And if they don't know what they're playing with, if they don't know what all the cards are, they can't do their job efficiently.
Nope.
And I also want to go back to what you said about something earlier. You said, I have heard so many stories out, not from you, but from other people about high ticket realtors that are on billboards and that are on commercials and are famous. And they go to them because they know them and they think, oh, this is going to be great. They've got to make me the
All this
best
great
money.
experience. Yeah.
Remember that you're not the only person who thinks that. You're not the only person reaching out to that realtor. And more than likely, their plate is overrun.
And they're not going to have time for you.
They're not going to have time for you. And I think that's more important on the seller's viewpoint because you need them pimping out your house
24/7.
24/7.
You need to be having open houses,
Yes.
realtor caravans, all
Yes.
these things. Like, it's just,
Marketing,
it
just in
is
general.
so
Yeah.
essential.
Yeah.
So essential. And you're absolutely right. If you Google, top realtor in whatever area you're looking at and it pops up and you call that person, I'm telling you, do not expect great customer service.
I mean, you can always ask like realtors that you're interviewing for like references. Like
Oh,
tell
yeah.
me
Or
people that
even
you
ask
have
your friends if
sold.
you have friends that have
That's
recently
the
bought,
best
like
place.
word of
Referrals.
mouth.
Yeah.
Like my circle of influence is always has in the past has really been taken from, you know, word of mouth,
Yeah.
referrals,
Well, and in
friends,
my opinion,
family.
most businesses, that is the best type of referral that you can get because you're talking to a client. You're talking to someone that can actually vouch, and more than likely that person is your friend and you already value their
Yeah.
opinion in the first place.
Don't pick the realtor because they're like on a billboard or they're hot or they're
On
you
the
know
Trulia listing.
or yeah
Or the ones
or
that the AI is messaging
yeah
you on Trulia. Like that's guys,
yeah
ladies, let's be smart about this. Anyway, I think that's great. I really wanted to touch on the buying and the selling. I also want to highlight, and we won't dig into it today, but I also want to highlight that your business at Big Fish does property management.
yes
And hopefully, if you're listening to this, you will get to a place in your life one day where maybe that can be a source of income for you,
yeah.
that you're actually, buying properties that you can use as rentals and so on, because that
Creates some
can't
mailbox
be
money,
easy money, right? Depending on what the property is and who's renting from you.
right?
But I also want to highlight that because I think that's a big part that you guys do as well. Just so we say it
Vacation
on
rentals,
here.
yes.
Yeah, like VRBO and all of these rental sites. Like there are so many people who do it on their own. But remember, if you have your own full-time job, that shit is its own full-time job.
I could write
Yeah.
books
Yeah.
about this. I have been doing short-term rental management on my own since 2010.
Yeah.
I had 6 of my own properties.
Yep.
We've got it narrowed down to 3 now, because we've upgraded, but I've self-managed. Now I'm managing for other people.
Yeah.
And I do, yes, I could write books and it probably would be another 30-minute show just on
Yeah, well, and my
property
reason in
management.
highlighting that is if you are to that place in your life that you have properties, like in my opinion, it is so much easier to work a property manager fee into your rental price and
100%.
pay someone to handle that shit for
That's
you.
exactly right.
Because it can be a nightmare.
Yes, and also interview that property manager
Yeah.
for the same reasons. You want to make sure they're marketing your property, that they're protecting your investment, that they're checking in on that place to make sure there's, squatters aren't,
Yeah.
That's a horror story that I've never.
Yeah. But still.
It does not it doesn't happen very often, but you know what I'm getting at. And I mean also if you're interested in purchasing a property specifically for that purpose, you just remember that you and a million other people have done so recently since the pandemic. So there's a lot of competition. So, if you look at numbers from 4 years ago, sure, people made a killing, but me included,
Yeah.
taken a 20% cut since then.
Yeah, things are leveling back out for sure.
But you have to be flexible. You have to adjust your pricing. You have to adjust. Maybe you need some more amenities, that kind of thing. And also, like I said, if you're looking to do that, find a realtor that is specialized in income producing property, whether it's commercial, short-term rental, long-term rental goals, whatever.
I want to say too, because I remember this so vividly, I met a woman on vacation when she found out that I lived in Auburn. Her son was going to college and she said, "Oh my gosh, we're looking at buying rental property out there. We want like a game day rental because that's a big thing, especially college football." And I told her honestly, I said, "I don't know shit about this, but I have a girl." And I text you immediately and I put you guys in contact. And I remember within like 24 hours, she messaged me and was like praising you. And I want to highlight this as like a compliment for you because she said not only did she tell me the exact streets that I want to buy on. She told me exactly how much I would make in specific area. And this was you telling
Mhm.
her all of this, how much she was going to make in specific areas, like so much information that she could have never got from someone who wasn't local and wasn't as well versed as you are in property
Mhm.
management. And I think I wanted to share that because I think wherever you are buying rental property, if that's where you are, you need to know someone who also does rental property
Yeah.
and is local to that area and can give you those stats like second
And let
nature.
me tell you, it's really valuable too. Not that I know this is the hype squad,
Yeah,
so
you're
I'm going to
tooting
hype
your own
myself
horn. Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
So
Hype
you
up.
want a realtor who can do this from an owner perspective and from a renter
Mhm.
perspective and from a manager perspective.
Mhm.
Okay. I've rented Airbnbs. I've owned Airbnbs. I have managed Airbnbs. So
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm checking the boxes.
Mhm.
And that's another thing too. If you decide to do this, there are certain people that are cut out for it
Mhm.
on all, as far as owners and property managers is what I'm talking about. Um, Owners, I would suggest that you be flexible. Realize that there are some things that will go wrong.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that your property manager is managing handfuls of other properties besides
Mhm.
yours.
Mhm.
But, you know, just interview that person and make sure that they are going to do the best that they can to get you where you want to be.
Mhm.
And, ask the questions. And if you get somebody like me, I'm going to give you truthful answers. And you might have to do a little bit of soul searching.
Mhm.
Some people go into this with an emotional attachment to a
Yeah.
property. And I've done that. I've been guilty. I
Same.
did that the first couple times, and I would literally, walk into my house, it would be trash, and I'd cry.
Mhm.
And I'm like, how would these people,
Mhm.
you know, how can they do that?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Ruined.
it's just, you have to, and that's what I tell people that are really first, getting into this ground running. You cannot be emotionally attached to a rental property.
I just thought of this. I think it would be a really cool idea if you are looking to work with a property manager for a rental property, rent a property that they manage.
Yep.
Go and stay a weekend in one of the Airbnbs that they manage. You'll be able to find out a lot of stuff on the viewpoint of the renter,
Mhm.
especially if it's a short-term rental.
Read the reviews.
Read the reviews, absolutely. And like put yourself in the position of a renter. Like, is that the experience that you're trying to create for people who are renting your property? So
Yeah.
I thought of that. I was like, that would be a good little recon mission. Anyway, thank you so much. I
You're
feel
so
like this has
welcome.
been the most educational podcast that I've done so far. And I can't wait to listen back and like make my own notes. But I think this is going to be really valuable for somebody out there. And if not, it was valuable
Mhm.
for me.
Well, good.
So obviously this is the hype squad. So we're going to do a hype list. So, and you can make it about real estate or you can just make it about random shit. Just hype
Mhm.
yourself up. I want to hear an achievement and I want to hear an obstacle that you had to overcome.
Okay. Well, an achievement, actually, one of my goals this year was to go to a national broker conference. And I
Mm-hmm.
just got back from San Diego on Saturday and I learned so much. I mean, if you've been in the media lately, there's a lot of maybe some scary things that are happening in the real estate world as far as rates and rules and
Mm-hmm.
commissions and things like that, but it I was put at ease completely, through the whole thing, took lots of notes. And I had never been to one before. So I consider that an achievement.
I love that.
I made enough money to book
Well,
the
and you're with your
ticket, book the
peers.
hotel, yeah.
Yeah. You're with your peers. So what,
Yeah.
so obstacles, you said I made enough money. I mean, I would consider that definitely an obstacle to get to that position.
Especially if you're a realtor, because you're going to have to spend money on yourself
Mm.
in order to make money. You're going to need a couple $3,000 up front just to
So
even get
my
there.
favorite business quote ever is scared money makes no money. And when you go into business for yourself,
See, that's gonna be my
your new mantra.
well, no, but it's gonna tie into exactly what I had to overcome.
Okay, let me hear it.
Fear
Yeah.
of, taking risks. As number one as an investor, I mean that's a huge chunk of change. That was my livelihood before I even started doing this for other people was
Mm-hmm.
rental income because I was a stay-at-home mom while my
Mm-hmm.
husband, was active duty.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was very important to me, and coming up with capital,
Mm.
you know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's scary, but you do if you want to be happy. And I mean, I'm at the age now, I'm 47. Like, I don't have a whole lot of time. I'm just
Stop it.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's like you reach that midlife age, and then you're like, you know what? If I don't do it, I mean, I got to do it.
It's
So
like
you
your
have to
fuck
get
it
over your
comes
fear.
into play where it's like,
100%.
well, yeah, but also like you have to bet on yourself. And I think that's what comes back to scared money makes no money. Like, yeah, I mean, you could throw around that quote all you want, but what it really means is I'm betting on myself.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, you have to be creative, right? Like you're using your credit cards and you're using a lot of time, right? And
Yeah,
you have to go into it knowing, and you have to plan for starting a
you
business.
do.
You have to have backup plans. You have to have money saved. Like it's not something you can just jump off a cliff and
Nope.
think it's and here's the thing too. I see this a lot on social media, people sharing their stories and they're like, I had $20 in my bank account and now I am a billionaire.
Uh,
I don't believe that shit for a second. Like people helped you, people
Along
gave
the
you
way.
money. Like there's no, you don't start a business with $20 and turn into a billionaire. It's just not real. And I know that, you know that because we have been there.
Right.
And if I only had $20 in my bank account, my ass would live in a cardboard box. Like
Right.
that's not how that works. And I feel like they leave out a lot of the other parts of the stories in some of
They
those
probably
success
had a
stories.
partner
They had a
of some
partner,
sort.
or
Yeah.
they
Had
may
a
have had
boost of
$20
cash.
in their account, but they had $100,000 in credit card debt. Like
Yeah,
they got it from somewhere. And so don't let that mislead you. But at the same time, you have to be ready to spend
you
money.
do. And I'll be 100% honest because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's me. I wanted to do real estate investment by myself. I knew I could do it because I had already purchased a home by myself in my name only when I was 29 years old. But the investment portion, like I was, you can say lucky or unlucky. I mean, I used every penny of my inheritance
Mm-hmm.
to purchase my first three rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody has that. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that completely.
Yep.
And I did that. I wanted to know and prove to my partner, my husband, that
Mm-hmm.
I could do this. I knew what I was doing. Yeah, I might have made a couple mistakes along the way, but if you don't, I mean, that doesn't make you human. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and then, later on, I kind of brought him into the mix
Mm.
to where, I had to prove to him that I could be trusted to make these big money decisions. And, that's kind of a credit to him. And I'll tell you, there's been a couple where he's like, you know what? I don't have a good feeling about it. You're going to have to do this on your own. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally fine. Because I'm telling you, if you do it the right way, you start out with the best of intentions and you get all the information that you can do it on your own. I mean, women in the 1920s that helped you earn the right to vote also helped you earn the
True.
right to own a home in your own name and a credit card.
Girl,
I mean, I could,
go ahead and preach. Let me give you
yeah,
an amen on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I love that. I love that. Do it for all of the bad bitches before you and all the
Because
bitches
we've
that'll
only
come
been
after
literally
you.
been able to do this for, you know, 100 and something years.
I love that so much. You are such a bad bitch. I have such a girl crush. I love you so much.
I love you too. Feelings mutual.
For people who don't already know this, if you've made it this far into the episode, like Leeatra and I are best friends. And so I could seriously sit here and talk to her for hours about all kinds of shit. Like I actually had to make us say, okay, we got to start. We got to quit talking shit. We have to start right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful to have you in my life. You're so powerful and you're such a boss. Like I love the energy that you give. And I'm so glad you came on and taught me and anyone listening about real estate, because I know you and I know that this is your wheelhouse and you are amazing. I've watched you do it for like the past 6 years.
When y'all hit 40, you're going to hit your stride. I swear to God.
I mean,
if you haven't yet, you know, when it's going to be fuck at 40.
Well, that's the thing too, is it's like, it's the age where most people get to the place where they're like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm already there, but I got there for other reasons outside of age. Cause sometimes just life hands you difficult cards and you're like, this shit ain't hard. I know what the fuck hard is.
Yeah,
right.
I've been there.
Right. So, and then if you don't have those, which God willing, you don't, once you turn 40, you're like, I'm over it. Like this is different for me. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for coming and doing this.
Anytime.
Thank you for coming to get hyped with me. I hope you
course.
all enjoyed this.
Right.
And now we're out. Cut. Peace out. Holla back, y'all.